All right, so for those who don't know me, my name is Branham Stefan. I'm the technical services lead here at Corva. So I handle different aspects of ops automation, as well as various API support and more technical questions from our customer base. Today, I'm going to be going over building Power BI dashboards for complex visualization. So, like I said, the goal here is that we want to create a Power BI dashboard, and we want to be able to pump that into Corva. So we're going to achieve that by utilizing Corva's REST API to power said Power BI dashboard, create the visualization, and then I'll show you guys what the end product looks like. So the first step is gathering data. So we're going to gather data from Corva's REST API. You might be asking, why would we do that over, say, other data sources we might have available? Well, for starters, as Fod had previously mentioned in his presentation, by utilizing Corva's REST API, we're cutting down on our data prep time, as well as getting data from a consolidated data source. There's a quality control team who oversees all of the inputs on a real-time basis, and our API language is actually quite expressive, meaning utilizing things like MongoDB aggregations, we can actually get a lot of data manipulation done before we even load it into memory into our local instances. Lastly, Corva's REST API is language agnostic, so it's great because if you have a developer working in Java, one working in Python, you can still issue the same queries to Corva. So when it comes to getting started with Corva's API, you're going to need one thing before you do anything else, right? And that's setting up your authentication. That can be achieved by utilizing time-expired JWT, JSON Web Tokens, which is what I would say is our preferred application method. And a lot of your Dev Center applications, you're typically going to have this JWT. Now, if you're doing things like more server-to-server communication, you might utilize something called an API key that doesn't have an expiry date. For resources on getting started with the Corva API, just feel free to ask me or your customer success manager, and I can provide you with some documentation, an example notebook, and also just answer general questions for you. But that's kind of outside of the scope of today's lesson. So when it comes to getting the data, I have a really simple example here where I honestly couldn't think of anything more simple, but I think that it would show really just the power and ease at which we can utilize Corva and quickly get insight from this data. So I'm going to start here in this Jupyter notebook in Python by setting up our requests here and importing a couple of libraries. As I mentioned earlier, we need to create our authentication credentials like I'm doing here. So you can see inside of this dictionary, I'm passing in our API key to an authorization header. I'm initializing a URL here. In this case, I'm going to be pulling depth-based data coming from downhole. And I'm passing in some query parameters. I'm just going to pull one of our sample assets here on the QA platform and just grab the latest record. Okay? So you can see I pass all that into my request here, and I'm getting my output. And I'm merging it, and we can see here that we have a nice, flat, and structured data frame that looks like this. And you can see here that within 10 to 15 lines of code, we were able to pull data from all of these disparate data sources that were consolidated into Corva and cleaned and processed and get it into a data frame that we can use for visualization. So now we're going to talk about Power BI. In general, in this example, I'm using Power BI, but it's important to note that using Corva data isn't limited to any sort of particular business intelligence tool. It could be Spotfire, it could be Tableau. We use Data Studio some for some internal things. I'm just using Power BI for the sake of this demonstration. Now, we could upload this Corva data in multiple ways, right? So you could do something like what I did earlier, where I scripted something and then just saved some data to a CSV. That's one option. What I have done internally for some of our applications is actually directly embedded REST API calls into these dashboards in order to load data on demand and always keep up to the real estate. That's a little bit more complexity, but I definitely recommend that approach for maybe more productionalized setups. Another option that a lot of our customers follow is SQL warehousing or data warehousing or whatever data source database type they're using. So we do have different customers who might be streaming from data using Dev Center or just even short polling the API, storing that data, and then using that for their business intelligence tools as well. The beauty of using a business intelligence tool, though, is that not only can we take advantage of all of this Corva data that's been cleaned and processed, but we can also leverage that with external data sources such as downhole tool data, various internal reports, and things like that that maybe doesn't currently exist inside of the data platform. And I mean, let's be honest, using a lot of these BI tools is pretty nice and convenient, right? Usually no coding is involved in a lot of cases, and you can get to a prototype very quickly in which you could maybe push that to a dev center as a more permanent solution down the line. So now I'm going to introduce this. This is like a proof of concept application called Fetch URL on our testing platform. But really the whole purpose of this is to show how easy it is to integrate all of these other tools with the Corva platform. So in a very short amount of time, we were able to create an application here that allows, that allows the pasting of a URL into this application, which then embeds the iframe itself inside of a Corva dashboard, which is then interactive. So what I want to show you guys here is I know that I went through the process of pulling data. I want to show you this just really simple dashboard visualization. I know it's nothing necessarily super pretty, but I just want to prove the concept here that we were able to pull data from Corva and create a visualization here. In this case, we have gamma ray and ROP versus measured depth from one of our visualizations. So if I go here to this Corva dashboard, we can see that I was able to embed this Power BI visualization here and put it alongside some of the other Corva applications as well. So it behaves just like any other native Corva application in that we can resize the containers, we can share said dashboard with certain users and not others. For example, we could share it to whole business units. And we're not even just limited to Power BI like I mentioned. In this example here, we actually we took some of that other sample data from our pre-processing step, and I actually pushed that to a Data Studio dashboard that we can see here. So after grabbing this visualization, I was able to utilize that embedding code here and embed it. And we can see, if you can see my tooltips here, everything is completely interactive as if we were utilizing the application natively in its environment. So by utilizing tools like this that Dev Center provides us, we are able to incorporate multiple external business visualizations into Corva. And it's actually very simple. So if I go here to my dashboard, so after all of those steps, I preloaded my dashboard, and I just go to File, Embed Report, and I just grab that embedding URL. And then I would paste it right here, and then I can fetch it. It does take a second to load sometimes because it's a lot of visualizations and data, right? But same thing here with my Data Studio. So I can go here to File and go to Embed Report, and I can just grab that URL. And then what we're left with is this tightly integrated application dashboard in which we can utilize external resources as well as Corva resources to consolidate all of our visualizations and improve our internal and external analytics. So that was all that I have for you guys today. If you guys have any questions or anything like that in terms of how we can get this done, or any questions about getting started with Corva's API, let me know, and I can address those.